we've created a proprietary algorithm to where we're pulling from a bunch of different vendors, um, cleaning, testing, and then we also have a dialing and texting platform to where we're able to validate and use um, information to where we could see, you know, not necessarily what's right, but for bad numbers, like numbers that are actually no longer numbers, we're able to extract those out and make sure that people aren't calling a dead phone number or having that pull up into their list, because time is money. And the cleaner we could have the data, the more right party contacts we could have for people to call through and get in touch with homeowners that may or may not want to sell their houses. It's something we put a lot of time and effort into.
Welcome to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. Whether you are an active or passive investor, we'll teach you how to scale your real estate investing business into something big.
Jesse Burrell is the co-founder and CEO of real estate data and technology leader BatchService. Jesse's got a wealth of experience from wholesaling, rentals, flips, multifamily, you name it, he's done it. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Sam, thanks so much for having me on. Excited to be here.
Absolutely, Jesse. The pleasure is mine. There are 3 questions I ask every guest who comes on the show. In 90 seconds or less, can you tell me, where did you start? Where are you now? And how did you get there?
Where did I start? I started working for out of state. I'm in Phoenix, an out of state investor in California. He was buying in 2014, 2015. I was basically acquisition rep for him, finding on market deals, pre-foreclosures and short sales. I would call agents, negotiate distressed properties, and he'd either flip them or he'd turn them into rentals and then sell them off to his friends in his property management company. So that's how I got started. What was the next one?
Where are you? Where'd you start? Where are you now? That's question number 2.
Where am I now? Now, I'm the CEO of actually a real estate data and technology company. So active or real estate investing isn't my active income anymore. It was for about 6 years. And we started to try and build software solutions for my investing company. And it turned into such a big thing that I mainly invest into some syndications, buy some multifamily, some commercial here and there, but really focus on just making sure real estate investors could go find deals on or off the market. That simple.
Man, that's awesome. I love that. What finally gave you this idea that said, hey, I can start, it's BatchService, right?
Yeah.
BatchService. Okay, sorry. I'm sitting here looking at this going, my notes are off this screen. But what gave you the idea that you could start BatchService and then turn it into a product that you can market then to other end users?
Yeah, I mean, just in the real estate technology and software space 5-6 years ago, there wasn't much there. There wasn't even ways to, curate lists and keep data managed, and there wasn't good ways to go skip trace and unmask property information. And we were trying to streamline it for our specific business to be more successful. And we soon realized that we had something on our hands and just started servicing the community. And it came to an inflection point to where, do we continue to compete against the community or just serve them, since we were doing it as well? And I just love helping people, and I love this. And I had been doing real estate investing full time for a while, and it was a new challenge and opportunity, and I'm still able to invest. It's just not, my primary income anymore. And, ultimately that's probably how most people would like it, is, not having to chase every deal forever. But man, it's lucrative, and golly, it changed my life, to be honest with you. I was serving tables and working at golf courses, before I started working for a real estate investor. So real estate definitely changed my life in so many good ways.
Man, that's really, really cool. What was the turning point for you for when you said, because I think a lot of people struggle with focus, but for you, when you said, all right, look, we're going to sell whatever it is of your portfolio, and I'm going to focus on BatchService and just be that service provider to the rest of the real estate industry. When did that happen and why?
Yeah, we were spread too thin trying to run multiple businesses, and to scale a software company like at scale and really pour into your team and grow it. We just couldn't have a bunch of small businesses. We had to choose to go all in on something and truly commit to it. And I see a lot of, I guess, a lot of people that own small businesses want to own a bunch of small businesses instead of trying scaling one. It's actually more profitable and less of a headache if you do it that way. And just because you can make 10, 20, $30,000 a month spooling something new up, that's still diverting time away from your other business or businesses, to where some of the most successful people I've talked to is, how much more could you have made if you went all in? And is your company sellable? If you have a bunch of small businesses, people aren't going to want to buy those. You're always going to have to work in them and manage people working in them. So it was just a decision me and my founding partners decided to make. And it's been a pretty good one, luckily for us.
Man, those are hard decisions. I will say that because I think as entrepreneurs we struggle to say no because all we see is opportunity, where it's like, oh, man, that's cool, let's go do that. And then, like you said, you've now diluted your efforts to a point to where it's, you're ineffective at best at all of them, as opposed to being amazing at one. The thing I want to hear about here, I want to really dive into BatchService, what you guys do a little bit more, and just get the nuts and bolts of it. I mean, I've done plenty of my own back in the day, database building, skip tracing, finding owners, and there's this and that. What I've found is that the quality, and I've not tried your service, so I'm not telling you yours is the same way. Clearly it's not. But right. The quality of the data you could buy was okay at best. Oftentimes the phone numbers didn't work, stuff like that. I mean, how have you guys overcome, I guess, that challenge of unmasking the owners, making that data clean? I mean, it's got to be a constant work in progress, no?
It is, and it's very expensive. We have on our engineering and data science team, and I just call it our whole entire product side, we have over 90 people that work for us.
Wow.
So we have a lot of people. We have some very brilliant people, and we aggregate and clean from a lot of different sources. There's a lot of big industry leaders that have data or phone numbers, and they just sell what they have. We've created a proprietary algorithm to where we're pulling from a bunch of different vendors, cleaning, testing, and then we also have a dialing and texting platform to where we're able to validate and use information to where we could see, not necessarily what's right, but for bad numbers, like numbers that are actually no longer numbers, we're able to extract those out and make sure that people aren't calling a dead phone number or having that pull up into their list, because time is money. And the cleaner we could have the data, the more right party contacts we could have for people to call through and get in touch with homeowners that may or may not want to sell their houses. It's something we put a lot of time and effort into.
Yeah, I can only imagine 90 people on the product side. I mean, building a team of that size with the skill set, that is needed to do what you guys are doing. Tell me how you got that done. What were some of the challenges there, or some of the things you feel like you did really well in building a team like that? I bet that's a story all in itself.
Yeah, I have a very smart co-founder that's good on the product side, but it's really I look at it as a production line. So we have our core. So we have this huge core API to where that's what enables our customers. It also enables our apps and our solutions. So we're always pulling from our core. Once core builds something, it goes to product scopes that. They make sure the business use case and deliver all those things, button everything up. And then the last step's actually engineering. Engineering is just giving you a timeline, but they're just building what core started on. Product made sure these are the requirements, and then engineering goes and execute it. And then next it's marketing's job to let people know about it, and it's sales job to close the deals. I mean, it's all just one big funnel, to be honest with you.
Did you have I mean, I know you said, prior to real estate, you were waiting tables, working at the golf course, doing whatever you could do. But how did you develop that leadership skill to be the CEO of a company now that, has at least 90 people, probably a lot more than that now working for it, and taking it to where you have? I mean, that's either a natural gift or something that you've really refined and worked hard at. So tell us how you did that.
Yeah, we have about 250 people today in our organization. And I think part of it came from being a leader on the sports teams. when I was younger and what I did. And the next part, when we started growing this, is me and my partners refer to what we do is, we're building a plane as we're flying it. I had to read a lot of books, grow a lot. There was a lot of immaturities in me when I started this company that I could no longer have, or it's detrimental to, the company to act certain ways, and being very self-aware of how you act, how you treat people, and how you lead people. And that just came with time and practice. And I also think I have a natural charisma. I get very excited. I get very passionate about things we're doing, and it just oozes out of me, and people want to follow that and get excited with me. And that's just who I am as a person. But I had a lot of growing to do and a lot of growing up to do, to become the CEO, and a good one at that. And I've worked really hard to just be a better person in general, because it shows. It really does.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, and that's that's a challenge to all of us. I think anytime we start becoming responsible for people and for other members in our organization, it's like, okay, well, we've got to grow up and just accept the role that we have. And that can be both invigorating and at times a daunting thing. What about systems and processes? I know you mentioned here kind of you make it sound easy. You're like, oh, okay, we develop product. We go from core, and then we go to product, and then it goes to engineering, and then marketing. They just sell it, and off we are to the races. But at one point in your organization, there was not all of those people and all of those processes in place. How did you guys develop that? Even though you say you're building the plane as you fly it, which is, I certainly understand that analogy. But how did you get to this point? And then what were some of the things some challenges you had to overcome in building those processes inside of your organization?
So luckily for us, when we first started building a lot of our products, was we were still in the business the first 2-3 years that we started this business. So we were just solving problems. So product, figuring out where we wanted to build and do, product initiatives was very easy when we're solving problems inside our own business. And I was lucky enough to be around in inner circles of a lot of highly functional wholesalers and investors that are flipping and wholesaling, hundreds to thousands of homes a month, or not a month, but a year. And it's seeing, where their shortcomings was, what their teams need. And that's how we started building. And luckily with us, I got to partner with some great people that were using our product at the beginning. So the affiliates really pushed and grew our product at the beginning. We had, I don't know if you know who Pace Morby or Jameel Damji, they have a house flipping show now, and some of these bigger influencers in the niche that we had focused on at that time, they really shouted it from the rooftops, is like, if you want to be successful to get started in outreach homeowners, these are the software tools that you need to use. And it was a lot of organic growth through word of mouth from them at the beginning. And the product road mapping was quite simple. As we grew, a lot more complexities came in, and that's where we really focus and run our whole company with OKRs. I don't know if you're familiar with OKRs, is objectives and key results. It's what Google uses, what Adobe uses. A lot of the bigger organizations run all of their stuff through objectives and key results, and it really holds teams accountable and make sure everyone is aligned, and people knowing what their job is and how what they do is important to some of our top line goals as a company.
That's really, really cool. Yeah, I've heard of KPIs. OKRs is a new phrase to me, but certainly those are invaluable as it pertains to bringing on team members, holding them accountable, establishing where we want this to go. I think that's really, really cool, and I love how you guys have worked your way through that, and also just the idea of how to market it in the beginning, on bringing on bigger names that kind of help, like you said, shout from the rooftops about the product that you have. I do want to clarify here, because I've heard you mention finding homeowners data, but you guys do a ton of work in the commercial space, correct?
Yeah. So I normally say homeowners, but yes, we have contact information for commercial multifamily people, that not just people that own homes, but people that own investment properties. If it's corporations, we've run a lot of tests, and we have the best skip tracing and unmasking, and we're creating even more proprietary stuff to where we could pierce corporate veils and figure out who those owners are. And can't really go into the logistics of how we do everything, but really finding out who the owners are past that, reverse engineering and figuring out how do we get that information. And, there's companies like Crexy that use us to and to unmask and give contact information to people that are using their platform. So it's been cool to start partnering with some other companies and helping them make their data better as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's the challenge, I think, because we're involved in, and I have been involved in several niche asset classes that have not had anyone doing any of the data research on it. One of those was parking lots and parking garages. We were into that up until the pandemic. And it was like, nobody knows who all these random parking lot owners are all across the country. I mean, really, you go into a city, you're like, okay, that's a, 10,000 square foot asphalt lot in the middle of the central business district, but nobody knows who owns that. And
Right.
so we had to self-create that data and going out and figuring out, and we use paid services, but even then it was, I mean, you could spend 20, 30 minutes researching using, I forget who, I used LexisNexis back then, but using
Right.
LexisNexis, finding out who those owners are, then researching the addresses attached to it, and finding if there's names, then finding if those names have phone numbers. And I taught some people how to do it, and we really did it at scale. But oh my gosh, building that data was just a nightmare, really, truly. So you guys are able to go out and aggregate, and like you said, you're not going to tell us how you do it, which wouldn't expect you to. But you guys are doing this at scale. Are there asset types that are harder than another, or is it all just the same thing? I know you mentioned multifamily, but I mean, I guess let's start with that first question. Is there some that are easier to find owners on than others? And if so, why?
Yes. So we don't necessarily have to go asset type, but anything that's an LLC is always going to be harder, right? Because you have a homeowner tied to a property. Now, once you get into, and that's where commercial, industrial, larger multifamily is going to get harder because you're having to pierce a corporate veil and figure out who owns this or who's registered. How do I get in contact with the right person? And that's where you have to go even deeper into corporation commissions, crawl those, do a bunch of different things. And us and some other providers are working on that. So what's good is, how competitive we are with, the people that we're competitors against is all we're doing is making stuff for you guys easier to go find the people that you want to get in contact with. And it's getting better, but it's still tough. People will have layers and trusts and this and that. So it's more of, it depends how title's taken, the harder it could get in certain ways, if that makes sense. So it's not necessarily an asset class. It's just how title's taken with that property and how hard or how much privacy someone wants, the harder it could get, if that makes sense.
Yeah, oh gosh, yeah, it absolutely does. Because you could have LLCs that are members of LLCs that are members of LLCs, and it's like, okay, how far down this do we chase this, and at what point? And you probably at that point you wind up with a random registered agent in Montana, and you're like, okay, well, now we're back to where we started, which is nowhere. So it is an interesting thing, and overcoming that challenge, I think, is where the gold lies. So tell me this, you're all in on your business right now. Tell me, what are some cool things maybe on the real estate side of things that you're looking for personally? You said, hey, here's where I see opportunity. I know you mentioned, okay, you're kind of doing more the syndication side of things, but is there anything right now that is particularly striking your fancy as you look at real estate and kind of the risk profiles that are out there right now?
I'm really interested to see, with interest rates where they are and loans coming due, I see a lot of potential in commercial, potentially, just depending on what type of discounts are going to happen and where interest rates are. And if there's going to be foreclosures or people are going to, I see a lot of interest there. Everything else I currently still see is too expensive. I think the market went up so much. I still think there's some pullback. And I've learned from a lot of smart people and from my own experiences, if you're in a rush to buy real estate, that's when you could lose, is be patient, wait for the right deal. Don't force deals to come upon you. And if something fell into my lap that, was single family or even multifamily, I would be open to it, but I just still feel like there's still more room to go, and unless that cap rate makes sense, it's just I'm not interested. And I have some friends in the industry that are doing some really good syndications that bought the land before COVID happened, and they're finally, getting through and getting the building. Uh, why do anything if I could just invest in them and see really nice returns? Those are the opportunities I really look for right now, because I don't have the time to actively participate and focus on building something or managing something. Even if I go buy a multifamily and hire a property manager, they're still going to call me. This happened, that happened, that happened.
Right.
I don't have time for that. When I say I'm singular focused on growing Batch in our data company, that's where my focus lies. And there's a lot bigger return on investment on what it would look like to sell this company than to buy a few one-off real estate things. Is I want to sell this for 9 to 10 figures, and then I want to go back into real estate full time and deploy my capital into very, very large deals is the ultimate goal of what I'd like to do in the next 5 to 10 years.
Got it. I love it, man. Jesse, thank you for taking the time here to come on the show today. I've learned a lot from you here on growing companies, on what it means to grow yourself as a leader and things you had to overcome on that front. We've talked about processes. We've talked about team. We've talked about, you selling off your real estate in order to singularly focus on batch service, which is a word, I think, to us all, which is to absolutely focus. I'm looking forward to trying out your program. It looks pretty cool. If our listeners do want to get in touch with you or learn more about batch service, what is the best way to do that?
Yeah, just my first and last name on Instagram. Not a big social media guy, but I check my DMs. If you have any questions, I'm always here to help and give some insights on some of the experience I've had.
Fantastic. And for those of you who are just listening, that's Jesse Burrell, Burrell. And then your website there as well as batchservice.com. Make sure to put all of that there in the show notes. Jesse, thank you again for coming on the show today. I do appreciate it.
Sam, thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for listening to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate podcast. If you can do me a favor and subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever platform it is you use to listen, if you can do that for us, that would be a fantastic help to the show. It helps us both attract new listeners as well as rank higher on those directories. So appreciate you listening. Thanks so much and hope to catch you on the next episode.